Hi, yeah, so I'm doing a video about Destiel and Supernatural and representation and stuff. So yeah, so one of the issues or arguments that I hear that is pretty foolish against, Dean and Cass becoming canon is, well, for one, that Supernatural isn't that type of show. Like, whatever the hell that means. Like, which, to me is sort of a hilarious thing to say, because that, to me, shows more than ever why Dean and Cass should be together and should be a queer couple, because it demonstrates how and why we need queer representation in media, because we need queer characters in shows that aren't only that type of show. Like, not to say that series like Queer as Folk and the L Word and queer media in general isn't important, because well, my sister and we were watching this documentary about gay people and a trans person who came out, in their, like, past the age of 55, so quite late in their years. And there was one woman who, she was in her 70s, and she watched the L Word, and that finally gave her courage to finally come out, was the L Word, was a huge part of that for her. So clearly queer media important, but for mainstream things and that are received by a bigger and wider audience, queer characters are as important, maybe even some ways more important, or just as important. I have no idea what I'm saying at this point anymore. Because, well, for one, not like, shows like that, like Queer as Folk and the L Word are, MA or mature shows that you can only see on cable networks, or, well, I think that they're both from Showtime, where it's like a younger audience doesn't have access to that fiction, because they're too young for it. Like, if they're in their early teens or tweens, or even into their teens, if they have strict parents, like, they can't watch stuff like that. So for them, queer teens to have characters in mainstream shows who are gay is important, because it gives them courage. It shows them that their feelings are normal, that there are other people in the world who have these feelings and who have these fears that they do, and who, to not make them feel alone, to make them feel like they have solidarity, that they are part of a greater experience, and also such a thing can give them courage to come out to someone, and to talk to somebody about who they are and how they feel. And things like that are also really important, because the suicide rates for LGBT teens are far too high. So like, it's not apropos or crazy to say, I think that a queer character can save somebody's life. Like, I remember, I don't know if it was in an interview for the DVD of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where Amber said, like, she had received fan mail from people who said that, they didn't kill themselves because of Tara, because of this lesbian woman who was on TV. Like, she gave them strength and inspiration, and they didn't kill themselves. So for queer people, you know, queer representation, super, super important. However, on the other side of that, queer representation is also important for straight people, because for us, I mean, I think I'm probably straight. I mean, I've kind of questioning, but, or not questioning, but I mean, I look at some women sometime and say, oh yeah, that's kind of nice to look at. I'm not sure if that's the same thing as sexual attraction, but you know, whatever. Not important, a whole other thing for a whole other time. But for straight people, you know, Tara, to me, growing up, was also important because I come from a conservative family, a conservative background. Like, all of my family, especially on my dad's side, you know, watches Fox News. So that's the kind of environment I grew up with. To me, Tara was important to show me that this is a person who's just like me, she just likes girls. So, you know, that's important for you know, young people, and maybe even not so young people, to be able to see a character who they love and who they admire, who turns out to be queer, which I think a lot of people, because, like, you know, Dean has been established for a really long time, and, you know, a lot of people who love his character, who identify with him, of all, you know, genders, because, you know, men watch Supernatural too, maybe not as many men, and I'm sure some of those men are straight. To have this character, you know, come out as bisexual, you know, that might, you know, to them, they might be able to see, well, you know, here's a character I like, who, you know, likes men, or at least likes another guy, you know, clearly, like, you know, I'm fine with this. This does not feel bad or wrong to me. Like, just because he likes dudes now, like, that's okay. So for that reason, you know, queer representation is important, and why we need queer characters on more than those type of shows. So, and also in mainstream, and not just, you know, like cable shows, like, you know, The Walking Dead has had at least 2 queer characters. You know, True Blood has queer characters, but again, those are more like adult dramas. You know, Game of Thrones, same deal, where, but still, like, those aren't so accessible to a younger audience. So we need, you know, mainstream shows more accessible to younger audience who have those type of characters. So yeah, okay, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen.